Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another lecture. In today's class, we are going to cover a very easy topic, that is the types of the change. In any organization, whenever we are going to make any change, there are going to be different types of the change. And Johnson and Scholes have bifurcated all kind of changes into four categories. And what is the criteria of categorization? The criteria on which these categories are made are the size of the change and the speed of the change. And once you have categorize them into these four types. Now what is the main focus of this model is to rate them as per their risk profile. Identify that which type is riskier and which type is less risky. All right, so you need to do, so the main focus of this model is to identify that what kind of changes, right? And once you will identify that what kind of change it is based on the size and the speed criteria, then you will say that, based on the risk profile, is it the top level risk, lower risk, lowest risk, right? You will discuss this thing. So let's start it. But before doing this, let me explain one more thing to you. You know, the speed of the change, it's very easy that, if the change is carried out slowly and gradually over the long period, it is taking years or a reasonable time, you will say that the speed is low. And if the speed is high, it's rapid, it's fast and furious, you will say that the speed is high. But about the size, that the speed thing is very easy to evaluate, that is it high or is it low. But the size thing, for the size thing, you need to consider few criteria. What are the criteria, sir? For the size thing, you need to consider that if any change is having a direct impact on your core business strategy, your core business activities, your senior management, or your culture of the business or the organization. See, these are the major things. If your change is having a direct impact on any of these areas or any of these departments, you will say that the size of the change is high. And if your change is not having impact on any of them, you will say that the size of the change is low. Are we clear on this thing, that how we are going to evaluate that the size is high or low and the speed is high or low? All right. Now let's move forward and talk about them. See, if your size of the change is low and also the speed is low, you will say that it is the adaptation. You don't need to worry about the name and you don't need to go into the science of the names, because we are not bothered and we are not required to, go into the science of the name. You just have to memorize them. What you need to do is that once you have, categorized the change into these categories, that it is adaptation based on the criteria that the size is low and the speed is also low. All right, that the size is low, speed is also low, so it is adaptation. Now you will have to say that, among these four, which one is the most riskiest type of change. All right, so you have to rate them as per 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Who is the topmost risk, who is the second most, third most, and the fourth risky change, right? That is what you need to do, and I will tell you how you're going to do this, right? So yes, so the size is low and the speed is low, we say it's adaptation. But if the size is low and the speed is high, the size is low, the change is very minor, the change is not having the impact on these activities or these areas. But the speed in which the change is going to be conducted, that's high. Things are going to be fast and furious, they are going to be done rapidly. So there is a chance that, things might go wrong in speed, in hurry, right? So that is why it is called the reconstruction. All right, it is called reconstruction. Again, don't need to go into the science of the name, right? Then, if the size of the change is high, it is having the impact on any or maybe multiple of them. All right, and also the speed of the changes, but the speed of the change is low. Size is high, but the speed is low. You will call it evolution. You will call it evolution. So it's just a name. Then, if the size of the change is high and the speed of the change is also high, so you call it revolution. Revolution, we all know this thing, that when the enormous and the significant changes arises, and that too in the very short time, you call it revolutionary change. That's a revolution, right? So that is it, revolution. Now, once we have understood this, here comes the main objective of this model, to rate them as per their risk profile. So if I ask you that, which of them would have the, if you will rate them, that what should be placed at the first rank, that based on the risk profile, that it is the most risky risk, then number two, number three, and number four, right? In which order you will place them? So if you ask me, adaptation, in adaptation, both size and the speed, they are low, so that's the least risky change for me. That's the least risky change for me, because in this also the change is very incremental, minor, and not major. And also I will have a time, I will do it slowly and gradually, so it's the least risky change for me. Then, about the reconstruction, in reconstruction, the size is low, but the speed is high. Due to the high speed, the risk increases. All right, the risk increases, but since the size is low, it's not major, it's not significant, it is not having the impact on these four areas, although it's risky because of the high speed, but that is not too risky, right? So we'll say that it will come on the third rank, it will come on the third rank. And now, if I talk about the evolution, in evolution, your size of the change is high and the speed of the change is low. No, the size is high. Obviously, if it is high size change, all right, it is having the impact on these areas. See, these areas, and they are really major for me. Your strategies, business activities, senior management, your culture, right? So yes, it is going to be risky. It is going to be highly risky. But since you will have a time, you will have a sufficient time to carry out the change properly. So yeah, it's not first place. It will be on the second rank. And revolution, since the size is also high and also the speed is high, we will say it's a first rank uh, first rank risk type of change, right? It is going to be ranked on the first rank, right? It is the most risky type of change for me. Now we have understood this, but I have something to tell you. What's it? Let me tell you. That while explaining you this model, I use some very easy terminologies. That's like size, low, and high, because these are the terminologies that we are familiar with, right? We use it in our daily life. So if we use these terminologies in order to understand some model, we will understand them in a better way. But Johnson and Scholes, they did not use these terminologies, the size, low and high, or the speed, low and high. They use some other terminologies. All right. So we just need to look at the terminologies which they have used. It's just a you can say matter of the fact or the difference of the terminologies. Otherwise, the concept is all same. So now let me tell you these one by one. So for the size thing, Johnson and Scholes used the word scope. They said that the scope might be high or might be low, and based on these same criteria. All right. And also, for the low scope or the low size, they use other word. They use the word that is the reconstruction. So they said that if your scope is low, you will call it reconstruction scope. The reconstruction scope. And if your scope is high, you will call it transformational scope. You will call it transformational scope. All right. The concept, the idea, the ideology is same, just the difference of the words. All right. Then for speed, again they use different terminology. Sir, what did they use? They actually use the word that is the nature. So they said that if the nature of the you have to look at the nature of the change. It's same as the speed. All right. He said that either the nature of the change is going to be low, no sir, they use the different terminologies. They use the word incremental. They said that the nature of the change, if it is low, we will call it incremental. We will call it incremental, right? You will use the terminology of the incremental. And similarly, if the nature, I mean speed, if it is high, you will use the terminology Big Bang. You will use the terminology Big Bang. All right. So these are the terminologies that are used by the Johnson and Scholes, right? So again, if I would have explained you this model by using these terminologies, believe me, many of you would not be able to understand this. And that is why I use the simple terminologies first, explain you in the manner that we are familiar, all right, and then I told you that what are the actual terminologies or the words that are used, and they have the same meaning, same concept across, all right. So I hope that I was able to explain you the concept that how you are going to bifurcate them into these categories and how you are going to finally rate them as per the risk order, all right. So see you all in the next lecture. Till then, take care of yourself. Allah Hafiz.